Okay, good evening, everybody. Looks like we have a full house tonight. This has been a long time since we've had a full house, so I'm glad to see everybody here. This is a council public meeting, and the first thing I would like to do is read a statutory statement, which I don't think I even have, and I have not committed it to memory. Oh, I do have it. I'm sorry. If a person or public body does not make an oral submission at a public meeting or make written submission to the City of Richmond Hill in respect of a proposed official plan amendment, zoning bylaw amendment, and/or plan of subdivision or condominium, the person or public body is not entitled to appeal the decision of City Council to the Ontario Land Tribunal and may not be added as party to the hearing of an appeal before the Ontario Land Tribunal unless, in the opinion of the tribunal, there are reasonable grounds to do so. So the purpose of tonight's meeting, just so everybody knows, this is a council public meeting, and it's a meeting that's held, a statutory meeting under the Ontario Planning Act, to really have kind of the first opportunity for the public to comment on an application when we have an application that's complete. So that's what we're doing tonight. There are no decisions that are going to be made that are final decisions on approving or not approving the application. So tonight is really the beginning of the planning process, and it's an opportunity for you, the public, and for us on council to make comments. At the end of each of the items, the comments that we hear tonight will be referred back to our planning staff, who will take those comments into consideration as the item continues to be to move its way through the process. Okay, so there's no actual decisions tonight other than referring all the comments back to staff so it can continue along in its in the process. Okay. We'll have, I think we probably may have a few people tonight that are delegating virtually, and we have some people signed up. We'll do the virtual delegations first, and then we'll open it up to the live in studio audience here. And so you're welcome to come up and speak. Anybody that would like to speak can do so on the item that you're here to speak about. Just come on up to the microphone. You'll need to say your name, and then you can make your comments. We'll give you up to 5 minutes to speak, and there will be, I guess there's a timer that goes off. When you have 1 minute, there's a bell, and then when the second bell means that your time is up. Okay. We have 4 items today. So we'll take those in the order that they're on the agenda. So that's kind of a synopsis of what's going to happen tonight. And I'm seeing all these smiling faces that fully understand everything I've just said, right? Okay, now I'm seeing nodding. That's a good sign. Okay, so the first thing I'd like to do then at this point is adoption of the agenda. I need a motion for that. Councillor Davidson, Councillor Tree, all those in favor? Okay, that carries unanimously. And just so you know, in the audience, we have Councillor Liu, Councillor Silovitz, and Councillor Hsu, who are joining us virtually tonight. Okay, the second item on the agenda, disclosure of pecuniary interests and the general nature thereof. Anybody on council have a pecuniary interest? Okay, seeing none, Mr. Clerk. The first item of scheduled business is request for comment zoning bylaw amendment application for 34 Avenue Road. And one thing I failed to say earlier, what we'll do on each of these items is we'll have the staff planner on the file make a presentation about that, and then we'll have an opportunity for the applicant to make their presentation, and then we'll open it up to the public for comments. Okay, so the first presenter is Leanne Penner, who is our staff planner on this file. You know what? Thank you for telling me that. I was just kidding. It's not Leanne, it's Umar Javed. So Umar, if you're there you are. If you could turn on your mic and give us a presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council, and members of the public. The first item tonight involves the submission of a proposed zoning bylaw amendment application for the lands municipally known as 34 Avenue Road to facilitate the creation of one building lot for single detached residential purposes on the subject lands. Next slide, please. The subject lands are located on the west side of Avenue Road and north of Birch Avenue. Approximately, the lands have a frontage of 32.67 meters along Avenue Road, as well as a total lot area of 1,007.65 square meters. Currently, the land support an existing one-story single detached dwelling with an attached garage that is proposed to be demolished in order to facilitate the proposed development. Adjacent uses to the lands include established residential uses in the surrounding area. Next slide, please. The subject lands are designated neighborhood in accordance with the city's official plan. Lands designated neighborhood permit low-density residential uses, including single detached dwellings. Staff note that the subject lands are also located within a priority infill area. Next slide, please. With respect to zoning, the subject lands are currently zoned residential single family R3 under zoning bylaw number 2523 as amended. The applicants are seeking council's approval to amend the provisions of the R3 zone in order to facilitate the proposed development. As a result, a total of 2 lots would be created and each would contain a new single detached dwelling with frontage along Birch Avenue. The proposed lots are to have frontages of approximately 14 meters each and lot areas of approximately 443.15 square meters for lot 1 and 456.45 square meters for lot 2. Next slide, please. Planning staff have circulated the application to internal departments and external agencies for review and comment. At this time, planning staff is considering the application in the context of provincial and regional planning documents, as well as having conformity to the city's official plan policies. The purpose of this report is to provide council and members of the public with an overview of the development proposal and has been structured for informational purposes only, with the recommendation that all comments be received and referred back to city staff for consideration. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. And the next person to speak is Mehdi Ajvand, who's the agent for the applicant. Mehdi, I see you there. If you want to unmute yourself, and you've got 5 minutes to address council and the public.
Good afternoon. Thank you everyone for your time, and I'm so happy to have you in this evening. Thank you so much from Omar that that truly reviewed the application. If we can have a next slide. Our proposal is pretty straightforward. We are proposing a severance on a residential property located south of Carville 16 and between Bathurst and Young. It's located on a corner of Birch Avenue and Avenue Road. Next slide, please. As Omar said, is the neighborhood is totally residential, and what we are proposing, which I believe is good, it's a good extension of the neighborhood. Somehow we are changing the direction of property lot arrangement. We are somehow continue and complete the arrangement that we have on Birch Avenue. So these 2 new lot and new proposed single family dwelling facing the Birch Avenue, although on the part 2, which is a corner lot, we did design the side elevation the way that promote the Avenue Road urban escape as well. And also on this lot, the reason that we have this frontage variation or deviation is we have a 3-meter road widening on Avenue Road, which I mark it over here, and also on the next slide. And also we have a daylight triangle, which I believe is great opportunity to complete the Avenue Road plan or road widening or whatever. Next slide, please. During the design process, we have some back and forth, some consideration. The most important one was for us is keeping the context of neighborhood as it is. As you can see, we have so many trees. There are so many existing trees. By the way that we design it, we could, I believe that in a best way, we could protect most of them except one tree, which is on the Birch Avenue. Even if we want to propose as of right, that tree should be removed, but all other trees are protected. Next slide, please. And this is the daylight triangle and also road widening that we have to convey to the city, and that's why our frontage is a bit smaller than what it's supposed to be. Next slide, please. we were waiting for this public meeting so long. It was postponed a couple of times, and maybe my client desperately want to proceed with this application, although it's just for the simple severance, but it needs a rezoning, and it's a bit too much for just a severance. But anyway, we have to comply. Next slide, please. This is the context of neighborhood. As you can see, we have just a single family dwelling, two-story single family dwelling, so many new development happening over there. And we did our best to comply with whatever happening in the neighborhood. Next slide, please. This is what we propose, as you can see on the middle one and the infill one, part one. We do have a more traditional one on the other one, which is in a corner lot. We have more contemporary design. Next slide, please. And on the side elevation, we try to have articulated the elevation as much as possible. We also received some feedback, some comment from different departments. Most of them, I was talking with Omar on this application, most of them is addressable. We do have some typo or problem or conflict in the draft of zoning amendment that we provided, which we definitely can amend that and correct them. All the note that we receive is addressable, and there is nothing that we don't want to comply with that. All the notes is perfect, and really thank you for the staff that provided those notes. I believe that this is the last slide. Yeah, I was pretty on time. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Mehdi. So we've got, let's see here, we've got nobody signed up virtually for this particular item. Is there anybody in the audience that would like to speak to this item? Seeing none. Going once, going twice. Okay, so I'll bring this back to council then. The local councillor on this is Councillor Silovitz. So Councillor Silovitz, if you'd like to get us started.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate that. And to staff, for your staff report and for your discussion here this evening, thank you very much. To our applicant, Mehdi Ajvand, if you could please contact my office, I would very much like to sit down and have a discussion with you. Make sure that my office and your offices are in contact with each other, so we are assured that we are all on the same page. My executive assistant, Ava Daneshvar, will help you get in touch with me. So please email me and email her, and we will do just that. I look forward to meeting you. I have a few concerns about this, and I look forward to discussing them further with the applicant. I have had my discussions with staff, and what concerns me most is the on page, let's see, page 4 of the report. So consecutive page 10 of 163. At the bottom, where we have the information about what complies with what is in place and what does not. So I understand that we are asking for some amendments here, official plan, zoning amendments, and that's understood. However, the one line that really concerns me is the maximum lot coverage. So what is, to me, it's way over what the footprint should be of these two residences. I would prefer to see one house. I understand the right and necessity of the landowner to want to split the lot, and historically, there are lots on the street. I know Birchwell, I used to live there. There are lots on the street that have been split, that have been severed before. And they are more or less around the same size. The proposed dwellings are also generally in line with similar new builds that are in the direct area. I know that you will continue to speak with our staff, and I look forward to also speaking with you, as I said in the beginning. I would definitely like to ensure that discussions continue between yourself and our staff with regards to the splitting of the lot, the severance of the lot. And I'm glad that the houses would face Birch. That's good, but there could be a problem getting out of those driveways right at Avenue Road and Birch. It's a very busy little T intersection, and that could be problematic. So I think you need to keep that in mind. That, I believe, is all my comments for now. Mr. Chair, thank you very much. I move that all comments back to staff for their consideration and continued discussion.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor. So we have a motion on the floor to refer all the comments back to staff. Councillor Tree, you indicated you want to go next. Did you want to second that? Okay, go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you, Mr. Chair, to applicants, I see on this street corner, there are 3 big trees. So if you build up 2 11 meters at the corner, 11-meter dwellings there. So first one is how gonna maintain those 3 big trees on the street? Because currently they do have 3, I think maybe more. Another one is from the view perspective. If you drive along the avenue, you turn to the Richmond or west, does this high building 11 meters gonna be blocked lead to the traffic problems? That's my second question. Thank you.
Okay, is that directed to somebody on staff?
Either staff or applicants. Maybe staff first, if they do have
Okay.
an answer.
Umar or somebody on staff, if we can respond to that.
Can I address them as the applicant?
Yeah, hold on a second.
Sure.
Somebody on staff, can we respond to that? Ms. Jeanette, I see you on the screen. Go ahead.
Hi, through you, Mr. Chair. Can Councillor Tree repeat the question, please?
Okay, the first question regarding existing trees. So far on the property, there are 3 big trees. So what is our plan to maintain or cut or shift those trees away? What's our suggestion here?
Based on the plan that's been provided, the applicant has advised that he's going to save the 3 large trees in the rear yard of the interior lot. It appears that only one of the trees may have to come down, which is on the exterior lot that is along Birch Avenue Road. So most of the trees will be maintained to the greatest extent possible, but it appears that only one of the large trees will be coming down.
Okay. My second question regarding to the visibilities, because this is a corner house, right? So turn left, right from each street, avenue and Birchmount. Is this 11 meters building gonna lead to the visibility issues? Thanks.
Through you, Chair, to Councillor Tree. We do not have transportation engineering comments at this time. However, the applicant has been made aware that their zoning bylaw amendment proposed for the building height is slightly over what the bylaw requires, and we are in discussion with him to bring that height down into compliance with the bylaw requirement of 10.67 meters. And once we receive transportation engineering comments, we'll be able to determine if that proposed height has any impact on sightlines from a transportation planning perspective.
Okay, thank you so much.
Okay, anybody else on this item? Okay, seeing none, we have a motion on the floor then to refer all comments back to staff. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries unanimously. Thank you so much. All right, so moving on to the next item. It is item 3.2 on the agenda, which is an official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment application for Hall Street Development Corporation, 107 Hall Street. So the planner on the file from the city is Leanne Penner. So Ms. Penner, if you would like to get us started. Whenever you're ready.
Good evening, Mayor West, members of council, and the public. The second public meeting tonight involves official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment applications to permit a high-density residential development and the retention of an existing designated heritage dwelling on lands municipally known as 107 Hall Street. Next slide, please. The subject lands are located on the east side of Hall Street, south of Benson Avenue, and have a total lot area of 0.58 hectares or 1.44 acres, and a lot frontage of approximately 50 meters or 165 feet along Hall Street. The lands presently support an existing designated heritage dwelling known as the Dr. Langstaff House. The lands abut an existing townhouse development to the north, existing commercial uses and an apartment building to the east, a French public school to the south, and Hall Street to the west. The subject lands are designated downtown local center and are located within the north end of the Uptown District in accordance with the city's official plan. The applicable policies allow for low and medium density residential uses within the portion of the lands fronting Hall Street, and allow for high density residential uses with heights ranging from 9 stories to a maximum of 15 stories within the balance of the site. In addition, the easterly portion of the subject lands are identified as an exception area. This exception permits high density residential uses, which refers to multi-unit apartment forms of dwelling units as defined in the official plan. With respect to the current zoning, the subject lands are zoned multiple 5th density special RM5S zone under zoning bylaw 7691 as amended by bylaw 4718. Permitted uses under the RM5S zone are restricted to townhouse dwelling units and a single detached dwelling, which relates to the previous approval issued by the Ontario Land Tribunal in February 2019. Next slide, please. Through these applications, the applicant is seeking approval to permit a high-density residential development to be comprised of 2 apartment buildings, 10 and 14 stories in height, connected by an 8-story podium on their landholding. The existing heritage dwelling on the lands is proposed to be retained and relocated to the front of the property with a connection to the apartment podium by way of a 1-story breezeway. The proposal is to incorporate indoor amenity space within the repurposed heritage building and outdoor at-grade amenity space, a green rooftop, surface level visitor vehicular parking, 2 levels of underground vehicular parking, as well as underground and surface bicycle parking areas. Access to the site is proposed by way of a driveway from Hall Street. Next slide, please. The applicant's official plan amendment application seeks approval of a site-specific exception to the downtown local center designation policies applicable to the lands in order to permit an increase in the permitted density from 2.5 to 3.4 FSI, an increase to the maximum tower floor plate size of 750 square meters to 850 square meters, a decrease in the minimum tower separation from 25 meters to 20 meters, and a decrease in the minimum separation distance to the abutting property lines. The applicant's zoning bylaw amendment application seeks approval to rezone the subject lands to residential multiple 6 density RM6 zone under bylaw 7691 as amended, with site-specific provisions to implement the development proposal. Next slide, please. A protected major transit station area, referred to as PMTSA 45, is centered at the Bus Rapid Transit Station at the intersection of Yonge Street and Crosby Avenue. It is noted that the subject lands are located approximately 450 meters walking distance from the BRT station. In this regard, the subject lands are located within the boundaries of a PMTSA in accordance with the regional official plan. Staff have circulated the applications to internal departments and external agencies for review and comment. The purpose of the report is to provide council and the public with an overview of the applicant's development proposal and has been structured for information purposes only, with a recommendation that all comments be referred back to staff for consideration. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. The applicant, who's speaking for the applicant? Oh, come on up. Mr. Evans, welcome. You've got 5 minutes to address council.
Thank you. Good evening, Your Worship, members of council. My name is Murray Evans. I'm the planning consultant for the landowner of this property. Ms. Penner has thoroughly described the details of the project, so I don't need to speak too much of that. As you're aware, this is an apartment building for a high density use in the local downtown center. There's two components, being a 14-story and a 10-story on top of a podium built form. And as Ms. Penner indicated, the proposed level of density is 3.4. There will be 265 units in the proposed. So if I may just speak to this, given that the details are very evident and Ms. Penner has summarized the policy framework very well, both verbally and in her staff report, I will just speak to a couple of matters, and basically I'll call it principles of development, which are exhibited in a design, and then also I'll say the philosophy of where we are and what we're trying to do. So Ms. Hurley, can I get you to quickly whip through do you have the button, or, oh, whoever's back there, could you go, there's that one, I don't need that, please, next. If this is probably pretty good. So the principle of this development, as we know, it's in a downtown local center, and that's where we want people to be. But we also understand the relationship we have with the neighboring properties. As you're well aware, there's a school playing field immediately to the south, and there's also an existing medium density homes to the north. And as you get farther to the east, you have the funeral home lands, which will logically redevelop in the fullness of time. So as you can see on this, what we have tried to do in this design is to primarily keep the building lower. So the 10-story building is towards, I'll call it the middle of the site, and it has been pushed as far south as reasonably practical to keep it away from the homes at 125 Hall Street, the medium density development. So there's a 19.5 meter separation to the podium, where we are just using that area as a parking area and landscaping area. So we've tried to keep the building as far to the south as we can, yet leaving a buildable site, and also recognizing that we have to have some setbacks from the playing field to the south. So we've tried to do that. We have created the built form is a tiered type of built form, whereas you can see, Your Worship, at the beginning, the Langstaff home is to be relocated to the front of the building. That's generally where that was located through the previous development application. And what that does is that forms a low density built form towards the street line, closer to the homes on the opposite side of the road. We have also tried to create a tiering, and if I could ask you to move forward to about the second or third last slide, please go forward. And so here's a pretty good representation of it, and you can see that we have a tiering or a gradation of height to allow us to maintain a reasonable transition from the low density uses on the west side of the road. So we have the existing home, the 10-story, we have a separation between the towers, and at the very east end of the site, we have a 12-story component. And as you can see, we're graphically representing where the extension of Crosby may possibly be. There are a number of properties that have had pre-submission meetings in this area, and that's a hot topic of this debate. We know it's not on this property because of this geometry. So we have done our best to recognize and if I could ask you to go one more slide, I believe, which is there's the angular plane, which Ms. Penner showed you. So we're back to philosophically. In 2010, the municipality adopted an official plan, and it incorporated policies for the development in the downtown local center. The heights are 9 to 15 stories, and the density is 2.5. And recognition that there will be development in the downtown area. Certain compatibility or transition tests, one of which is the angular plane. So I think it's important to recognize that if we want our downtown to be thriving and vibrant and economically positive, we need to have people. Centers and corridors, despite what our good friends are doing at the province these days, centers and corridors are still a main form of development where people and population should be directed. And we believe, I'll just wrap it up. We know there's work to be done. We're certainly going to meet with staff in the next week or two to work on design matters, but I'll be pleased to answer any more questions or any comments that are raised.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Evans. Okay, so we have a number of people signed up, some of which may be virtual and some of which may not be, but the first person is Agnes Parr. So Agnes, I see you here. We'll go through this list, and then if there's other people not signed up, we can certainly take them as a delegation. So welcome, Ms. Parr. It's been a while.
Yes, it has. Good to see you all in
Yep.
person.
So you've got 5 minutes, and there'll be a bell at 4 minutes, and then at 5 minutes that your time is up.
Okay, dear Mayor and members of council, I am speaking to you regarding the newly proposed development of a 14-story condominium building at 107 Hall Street. As a resident of 125 Hall Street, whose property immediately abuts 107, I have many issues that I wish to address. The proposed development includes 2 sublevels of parking, which will encompass the entire property of 107, and which will require digging immediately adjacent to the property line that 125 and 107 share. This will mean digging very close to the foundations of my house, and as such, putting my property at risk of developing cracks in the foundation and walls. Additionally, the entirely southerly side of 125 Hall Street will sustain substantial damage from all the construction that will occur. The proposed density and height of the building are both too much and not at all in keeping with the aesthetics of the neighborhood and the heritage home located on the property. A request of 265 units and 14 stories is not at all appropriate for this neighborhood. And should such a development be allowed, this will be very precedent setting, not just here, but across all of Richmond Hill. I ask council to not approve the requested change for the official plan amendment and the zoning. The access road to this building is proposed to be put down the northerly side of the development. This for me means having this right outside my bedroom windows and rear yard. This building will operate 24/7, and as such, that means there will be noise of one form or another both day and night. The total number of proposed parking spots is 307, which includes 40 visitor parking spaces. All traffic will be flowing to and fro from the building using this road to access Hall Street, a residential street which by no means can accommodate the amount of cars and trucks that would come with a building of this density. This presents a serious safety concern. The density that is being requested exceeds the currently allowed amount that is allowed on Yonge Street, and as such is totally unacceptable. Visitor parking is proposed along the northerly boundary of the development, which immediately adjoins my rear yard. So this will be the equivalent of having cars and trucks in my backyard. The access road along with the visitor parking will have to be lighted, which in turn will lead to light pollution negatively affecting myself and my home. Having seen the drawings, the waste collection area of the building is proposed to be located across from my property. In a building of this size, that means garbage trucks will have to come daily, and as such, the positioning of the waste collection area will devalue my property. A sun shadow study was included with the application. A proposed building of 14 stories is going to mean significant loss of sunlight from my own home, and I will be guaranteed of having next to nothing from November to March inclusive. The infrastructure related to the water and sewer pipes is another concern, as the likelihood of the existing pipes beneath Hall Street being able to accommodate for a building as per the requested proposal would probably be very insufficient and would likely result in having to tear up the road to lay new pipes. This is a neighborhood that is steeped in the history of Richmond Hill. And while all areas undergo change, this proposal is a very radical shift from the existing neighborhood and the unique characteristics of Mill Pond. The city of Richmond Hill, established in 1873, is clearly marked on the street signs, which includes Hall Street. 107 Hall Street, together with the Heritage Home located on the property, comprises a very important part of Richmond Hill's history. While the Heritage Home is being preserved, the construction of a condo tower would not at all be complementary to its heritage. Built in 1849, the property has undergone changes over the years. And while we all understand that change is difficult, I would hope to see that whatever would be built will be an appropriate fit, such as the townhouses that were approved for the property at least 5 or more years ago. I therefore ask council, from both a personal level and heritage perspective, to not allow such a proposal to go through. And I realize that we're not voting tonight, but
No, that's
thank
fine.
you.
You're an expert on this. You've been through this before on that property. Thank you so much.
I know, and here we are again. We have to go through.
Okay, the next person that we have is Rahinegez Talib Zabagan. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I've got the, my apologies. Tikamura R. Greenwall. Okay, do you want me to start again then? Okay. How about Susan Day? How's that? Welcome, Susan.
Hello.
You've got 5 minutes to address council.
Mayor West and Council, thank you for allowing me to speak regarding the 107 Hall Street planning submission. My detailed submission is available online, and I think you also have copies of it, so I'll just do highlights. Density. The Richmond Hill official plan for the area in question sets a maximum density for construction. The proposal submitted exceeds this limit by 33%. Why have an official plan if limits are going to be so blatantly ignored? Built form and urban design. Please refer to my written submission for the multiple contraventions of the official plan in the current building plan submission. It is truly unfortunate that the previous submission for the multiple townhouse units on the site appears abandoned, since at least some effort was made to have the proposed units fit into the already existing neighborhood. The current submission appears to make no attempt to fit into the existing neighborhood. Retention of heritage building on the site, the Langstaff House. As Richmond Hill celebrates its 150th year, it is crucial that we respect the people before us who helped to build the Richmond Hill we all now enjoy. Multiple generations of the Langstaffs lived in and ran their medical practice from this house. 100 years ago, Dr. Rolf Langstaff was running his practice and was on the committees with other town members in planning the 50th celebration of the founding of Richmond Hill, along with my grandfather. Dr. Lillian Langstaff, a pioneering female physician in Ontario that Richmond Hill should be extremely proud of, was operating her practice from the house and delivering hundreds, possibly thousands of Richmond Hill's babies. Among them, ironically, my mother, who was born 100 years ago in June. Arthritis. I make no apologies for celebrating the significance of the Langstaff House as one of the first medical practices in Richmond Hill, and the importance of their contribution to making the city of Richmond Hill the amazing city we all now enjoy. Please do not let another significant part of the rich history of Richmond Hill be lost through neglect or misuse of the building. I ask council to please do everything possible to ensure that this current proposal does not pass. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Susan. That's very interesting and effective. Very good presentation. Thank you so much for that. The last person that we have registered is Deborah Tobin. Hi, Deborah. Thank you for coming out.
I've never been out before and I'm nervous.
You know, you don't look nervous though.
So, dear Mayor and members of council, I'm speaking to you regarding the new proposed development at 107 Hall Street. As a resident of Mill Walk Court in the historic Richmond Hill Core, I have several issues with this proposal. What is currently being proposed would overwhelm the neighborhood and detract rather than improving the downtown core area. The proposed density and heights of the buildings are too great. I've driven around the neighborhood and presently newer buildings in the area along the Young corridor, for example, Benson and Young, have an 8-story height. And that's keeping with the plan of the neighborhood, which is outside the historical area. When I purchased my home, and I've been living in Richmond Hill for 30 years, north of the current residence on Mill Walk, on Gretel Avenue. When I purchased my new home on Mill Walk Court, my lot line was the historical boundary of Richmond Hill. I thought, great, I'm in historical Richmond Hill. We'll preserve Richmond Hill. Then they moved the high school, which is fine. You put another high school up. So there's changes. I'm not opposed to change. But this building is not on the Young corridor. It would flow traffic directly onto Hall Street in our neighborhood. And this street cannot accommodate the number of vehicles that would result in this proposed construction. Currently, in the winter months, Hall Street, south of Benson, is restricted to 1 lane with all the properties there, the townhomes. You can't get through with all the snow. As well, the blind intersection at Mill Street and Hall Street will inevitably cause accidents with the extra traffic. This type of development is not in scale with the small parcel of land that this lot is, and is more suitable for traffic with direct access to Young. Again, it doesn't keep in context with the neighborhood. Secondly, the proposed building aesthetically does not fit our historical area. The previous application for the 24 townhouse complex shocked me 8 years ago, 5, would fit more with the low residential character of the neighborhood. Again, this is not a large parcel of land. There are numerous mature trees on this property that are going to be destroyed, which currently provide homes for various wildlife, songbirds. Maybe we won't care about the environment. We're going to put a green roof. That's fine. The historical land staff house was where my child played with her friend when they rented that property. So I've been in that house. It is reasonable to keep the historical, lovely Miss Day was speaking. That was lovely about the house and the character of growing up in Richmond Hill. My grandparents came to Richmond Hill after World War II and settled in Richmond Hill on Garden Avenue. I expect change, but I expect change to fit with the character of the community I'm living. So, and preserve the heritage core. Growth and change are inevitable for the town to continue to attract people and business to our city. But larger density projects with offer condominiums and hopefully affordable rental units should be constructed near bigger transportation hub. Elgin Mills, where the Loblaws is, it's got the area while preserving our heritage in the core. Please reject this proposal and adhere to your strategic planning. Make a smaller infill development. Thank you for considering my objectives.
Deborah, you did great. Good job. Okay, we've exhausted our speakers list, but is there anybody else in the audience that would like to speak to this item? Come on up. So those that are coming up and speaking, if you can just state your name before you start speaking, just for the record.
Julius.
Oh, and address, sorry.
Julius Zulauf, ZULAUF at 125 Hall Street, number 24.
Nice to see you.
A pleasure, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, the public. I would like to address you in the regards of the development. And it's a difficult task because this is an unusual application. It's not the application we're dealing with seen in last years. And this application, in my opinion, is kind of an extreme. It is so far from the zoning requirements and proposes the development that is so different And so changing the character of the area that requires really very careful attention. None of the applications approved in last year was even close to this one. So this is not an infill application development that we get used to. Yeah, we need to develop, the population is growing, Richmond Hill is growing. So we are welcoming development, but this goes definitely too far. It does not match the historic area of the Richmond Hill. I made Richmond Hill my home only 10 years ago, but when I first came here, the unique character of the core, downtown core, and adjacent streets made what I needed to see. That's what made me buy home in Richmond Hill. Yeah, and if you look on this on the scope of the application, it is going far beyond the zoning requirements in almost every aspect. That being a density, setbacks, and number of parking spots and so on. But the most important is the change of the character of the development, especially on the western side of the lot. Yeah, this site was dedicated for single family homes and townhouses. This is the dramatic change of this philosophy of the development. Yeah? And multi-story development really is something qualitatively very different. Yeah? So this will dramatically change the nature of the character of the neighborhood. And this change will be irrecoverable. Yeah? It'll stay forever. Yeah? And the zoning that is in place for a very long time served really well in balancing the need for growth and putting this in harmony with preserving the cultural value of the downtown core and quality of life of the resident. This, if that application is approved as submitted, this zoning concept almost appears to be voided or rendered irrelevant. Yeah, and it will set a very dangerous precedence. Yeah, that we can have applications for something completely out of context, completely contravening the well-established policies, and try to push our community in new direction. And I am not sure if this is direction that we as the Richmond Hill citizens would like to see. Yeah, this building definitely belongs to Young Street corridor. I wouldn't have anything against this. Yeah, it would fit more or less. Maybe it's still too big for Young Street, but it will be much better suited there. Definitely not on Hall Street. Yeah? So I asked Council to give it really thought in a context of the entire community and a long range vision of where we want to take our Richmond Hill to. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Okay, anybody else would like to speak on this item on 107 Hall? Okay, sir, are you stretching or are you coming up to the front? Oh, I don't mean to point you out. Sorry. Nobody stretch while I'm saying that. Okay, seeing none, then we'll go back to council. This is a Ward 4 issue, so we'll start off with Ward 4 Councillor Tree.
Thank you, Ms. Chair. Through you, Ms. Chair, to all the audience here. So first one, thank you so much for coming here tonight and spending your time to express your concerns regarding to the 107 Hall Street. Recently, I received many emails and calls from residents, especially when the sun put on the street only 3 days. I received many calls. So I went to there in person and discussed with some neighbors on there. So let me summarize what I got. The first one concerned about is the FSI, which is density. In that area, it used to be only 2.5, but now we jump past 3.2 something. It's really dramatic change from a density perspective. The second one is regarding to the traffic. If you look at our house street, right, it's single line only. And suddenly we have 260 units dwelling in that small street, and it's open the door to the Young Street. This is 500 meters away from Young Street. It definitely going to be create a lot of traffic issues. If you look at currently along our Mill Street, Lucas Street, and also Hall Street, driving over there is very challenging, right? So in the sudden we have more newcomers here on the street. How can we handle this? And down south of that new plans, we have our art center. If you see ever going to our art center, if there's any events, you can see cars already parking on the street. Imagine 100 meters away, there are going to be another 250 buildings or dwellings there. How many cars will be there? So the second one, the traffic. Also numerous issues, right? Waste problems, also heritage problems. And also there, I'm going to introduce another one. This is not in our city. On the other side of Wang, which is out our city, but it's very close to Mill Street. They're going to have another big giant proposal project as well. So one side on our side, another one is on the Wang. They all go through the Mill Street. Mill Street is only one street, one way. If you ever go to the Mill Pond, you'll see how busy that street is. And one side, another side, both sides has big giant project. You're going to kill our community. So my suggestion here is I want our applicants come to my office and set up a meeting with me. Also, you are here or listen to the residents' voice tonight, right? So I think we have a lot of work to do to consider what is the best for community. Also, look at the characters. If you ever been on the street, talk with the residents, look at the house order. We have townhouse there. We have semi-detached or detached. So we don't have any high building around that community at all. So come to my office. We can have a further discussion. What is the benefits, not only from our city perspective for development, for affordable housing, but in the meantime, we can keep maintain the character of our existing residents, and we can make maybe in the middle, make a accomplishment in between. So that's my comments here. Thank you so much.
Oh, okay, thank you. So will you move the motion to refer all comments back to staff?
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you. So Councillor Thompson, you'll second, and you'd like to speak?
Yes, thank you. Yes, I will second that motion. Through you, the mayor, I'd like to just get a little bit of clarification maybe from staff. In particular, the dual designation on this property. Could perhaps staff just go over that one more time again for me?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Through you, Mr. Chair, to Councillor Thompson, I'd be happy to clarify for you. It is more of a layered policy, if you will. So in the report, it may not be that clear, but there is an exception for a portion, and the delineation of the portion of the property that is within an exception area, which does allow for high density development within the uptown district of the village of downtown local center, does allow for high density. The remainder of the property is still within the that uptown district, and it does there is a policy that basically, if you're not within the Yonge Street frontage, you do have you're only permitted low and medium density residential. So there would have to be a transition. Now, again, where the high density is permitted is not a delineated line, but I can tell you that this designation of the downtown local center does allow up to 9 to 15 stories. And in that regard, it would be more particularly permitted on the eastern portion of that property. Where exactly it's not delineated, there is another policy in the OP which does allow for a bit of flexibility in the location of that density, but there would be that transition required along the frontage of Hull Street. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, thank you. Through the mayor, I definitely appreciate the answer. It does beg another question though, and that is, I understand the transition side of things, but I think what we're going to see here in this particular application is that there's going to be the spill over from the high density into the medium low density. And, you know, that particularly right now, when the access is only coming from the medium low density area, then everything from that high density is going to have to spin through that area. So yeah, I have a bit of a problem with that. So I guess my question really comes down to, when we're talking about the intent of the official plan and the Uptown District with the high density, did it ever consider it in a manner of having to come through a residential road, or was that really intended more for a regional road?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Thompson. Very good point. We have not received comments from transportation planning with regard to this particular application. In terms of the intent of the downtown local center, and in particular, when we evaluate these types of applications, we heavily rely on the council approved downtown design and land use strategy recommendations report, which has a number of different layers to it and recommendations in terms of transportation, connectivity, roads, and again, this would have to be reviewed by our transportation planning staff, in particular on this particular proposal. There is a contemplation of the Crosby Road extension. We don't know the alignment at this point, but of course, these were things that were taken into consideration during the establishment of that strategy. And again, transportation planning will review this in great detail to ensure that the road network can handle anything if it would be appropriate for this area.
Thank you. And through you, the mayor, I guess what I'm seeing with this particular proposal, though, is that even if there was an extension of the Crosby coming into the back or to the east side of this property, with the development that we see right now, I don't see how it would be able to make that connection. So maybe that's just me. I'm not a developer, so I'm just not seeing it. That's all. I do have to ask a couple of questions in regards to the when the existing application or the existing plan that's in place right now, because the applicant had made reference to the original application here. When exactly was that approved?
Through you, Mr. Chair, their original application was approved by the OLT. The order was issued in 2019, but the applicants at that time did not follow through with entering into a site plan agreement or following through with their approval of their draft plan of condominium application. And then we received this application in February of 2023.
So 2019 is when the approval of, and if I understand this correct, it was 22 townhomes. Am I correct on that?
I'm just checking through you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, you are correct. 22 townhouses was what was approved in 2019.
In 2019. So we had 22 townhomes, each of them having their own parking unit. There was open space, planting of additional trees, plus there was going to be a move of the heritage home to the southwest corner of the property. And it certainly seems like a plan that wouldn't have looked much like the other townhome developments that have been built in the area over the past several years. So I'm having difficulty, I guess, understanding if we already have an approved proposal to build a development that more or less met with the intent of the city's official plan, would respect the character of the surrounding neighborhood, would be compatible with the adjacent residential properties in height and scale, density, and dwelling type, then I'm wondering, why is this coming back to council, 5-6 years later? How many years are we now later? 4 years later? I don't understand why a shovel didn't go into the ground, when we had that approval that seemed to meet everything that we needed at the time. I don't know if that answer is available as to why the shovels didn't go in the ground, but I'm really miffed by the whole thing. That's my comments. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. We've got Councillor Silovitz next.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you to all the delegates who stepped forward. It can be scary, but we are here to support you. Don't ever forget that. Thank you to staff for your presentation, and also to Murray Evans for his presentation as well. This is a very, very difficult ask. There's no other way that you can construct something like this. If I go back to the statements that were made by the residents who stepped forward. Ms. Parr, thank you so much for speaking here this evening. You and Ms. Day are highly respected. I understand your concern about the underground parking, and I'm sure that should something like this come to pass, our engineering department would make quite sure that all the technical specifications have been met. Notwithstanding that, as Ms. Day said, the urban design of this particular proposal does not in any way match with the character of the neighborhood that is there, that has already undergone a lot of change because it is in this, specific area. And townhouses are envisioned for this particular area. So when you put this massive building in this area, I don't think that the applicant or the planners can dismiss the concern here of the residents and of members of council. Ms. Tobin said it very well. She said, it will overwhelm the neighborhood. I couldn't agree more. I can't imagine what that proposed structures would look like at that particular place. It doesn't belong there. It belongs on Yonge Street. It's out of character with the community, is what Ms. Tobin said as well. Julius, I'm sorry, I didn't write down your last name. You said you accept progress, as do we all, but there has to be a balance. And I completely agree with you. There doesn't seem to be a balance here. And I concur with concur with Councillor Thompson's statements as well. It's astonishing to me that this is in front of us. Deals fall through, and applications don't come to fruition. But when the OLT, the Land Tribunal, has already approved the 22 houses, 22 townhomes, I don't understand the mechanism involved, with all respect, for the applicant to step forward with this type of proposal. I find it very concerning. And I agree with the residents who are concerned about the infrastructure, the load on the infrastructure, the sewage. Very concerning. Although again, should something like this come to fruition, again, all engineering and technical specifications would be met according to our departments at least. I have one question because I can't see it in the report. Through you, Mr. Chair, perhaps to Leanne, to Ms. Penner. I don't see anything in this report, or Sandra, thank you. I don't see anything in this report that is referencing what's going to happen to the Langstaff House. As the chair of Heritage Richmond Hill, this concerns me. I know, if I remember correctly, when we were looking at the townhouse proposal, that house, the Langstaff House, was going to be repurposed and was actually going to be lived in. So I know we're still awaiting comments from Urban Design and Heritage, but is there any idea about what's actually going to happen to the Langstaff House, the house that is identified?
Through you, Mr. Chair, to Councillor Silovitz, what we have been told by the information that was given to us by the applicant, the Langstaff House will be retained. It'll be relocated and repurposed as amenity space for the future residents of the proposed residential building. So it'll be relocated, retained, relocated, and repurposed. That's the only information we have at this time.
Okay. Thank you. At least we have some information. So that concerns me greatly. I definitely, I know that Heritage Richmond Hill will be informed about this as we move forward through the process. And there will be some presentations that will have to come to Heritage Richmond Hill as well. So I look forward to that. I'm almost done. The only other concern that I have, and I agree with all the residents, is the traffic. I could agree with Councillor Tree. This is the traffic overload that would come to Hall is massive, and it's very, very concerning with the school right there. So I urge the applicant and their planners to continue their discussions with the city, and let's try and come to something that's a compromise that can at least be looked at from both sides of the coin. Yep. With some acceptance of what's going to go there. So, and please protect whatever trees that can be protected. Thank you. Sorry, I went over time, Mr. Chair.
No problem. Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Silovitz. Okay, so we've got Councillor DePaula.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I agree with the previous speakers. This site was approved for 22 townhomes. I know we're in a period of high inflation, but in 4 years, this is incredible growth and density that's being proposed. So there isn't anything we can do about any landowner in Richmond Hill making an application. Landowners make applications, and that triggers this public process. And it's great to see so many people out here to have their input. There is a lot of concern from council about what's being presented. I have a great deal of concern. The precedent-setting nature of what is being proposed, and it's always difficult to support higher densities. Richmond Hill has taken more than its fair share of high density and high-rise buildings into this community, and that's because the provincial policy is to have transportation corridors be the place for new population growth. And we have Yonge Street as a major artery that has a lot of development forced here. But the distinction becomes what transition is made into the residential neighborhoods, and what impact do those buildings have on existing residents. Now, this to me is a high-rise right directly across from an elementary school and a road that is used, to transport children to school, completely residential neighborhood, and that's the sole access to this high-rise building. It's the time where perhaps as a community we have to take a stand and fight. Now, I'm always against spending taxpayers' money to fight against an application that essentially is the right place, is the right fit for the provincial policy and the regional policy. And essentially we're going to lose. So that we spend taxpayers' money, we fight the application at the OLT, and the Ontario Land Tribunal, the provincial body, makes the decision that the building, is suitable and it belongs, and it goes there, and all that taxpayer money is wasted, all that time is wasted, our staff's time is wasted. But this is the type of application in which it would be perhaps a wise use of taxpayers' dollars to assemble arguments and to do whatever it takes, because this is the front line against what density we're forced to have on Yonge Street, and how much is it going to encroach into our neighborhoods. And we have to protect our neighborhood. It's not just the Hall Street neighborhood in this case, but all the way up and down Yonge Street from Highway 7 to Bloomington. This if this were approved, this would be cited as a reason why, we have high density on Yonge Street, but also let's put 14 stories in behind, especially in the downtown local center. It's such a shame that, we do have to deal with applications as they come forward, but we are in the process of making a new update to our downtown local center, and the community is together in a consultation process where we're deciding what we want there. Our current official plan for the downtown local center is very restrictive in terms of heights and acknowledging our history and our rich traditions. And we wanted to even go a step further in our new plan. And we're, by the fall, we're going to have that new plan, and it would be great if landowners in the area were, respectful of that process and wanted to accommodate the wishes of the community with their application. So the timing of this is unfortunate, but the province has made new rules about how quickly a municipality has to deal with these applications. So we are required to respond quickly. I encourage you to continue to make your comments known and continue to express your sentiments through correspondence to council and other ways. I think the local councillor will continue to engage the community, and together we hopefully at the end of the day we get the right result.
Okay, thank you. Regional Local Councillor Deputy Mayor Chan.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Let me first say I want to thank all the residents who came out tonight, particularly the one who spoke in front of us, and also the written submissions. On the night when some of us have high hopes of Maple Leaf might do wonders, I really think that your devotion to this issue, which you care about, is certainly I find it very heartwarming. I do understand, particularly from all the speakers, and I can fully understand the first speaker about the potential impact that will be on your property because you're right next to it. So I understand it. And a number of points have been made by the delegates as well as my colleagues. So I'm not going to say something that's been repeated, but I do want to highlight a few points. I don't know about my colleagues. This afternoon, we actually spent quite a bit of time, the whole afternoon, talking about official plan update. And the term was used or was asked, protected. What's that again? Councillor Thompson, you asked the question. Protected MTSA, Mass Transit Service Area. Those are the new kind of wrinkle or demands from the province. Intensify. And at the local level, I assume some of my colleagues are frustrated because we talk about community, say, hold on a minute, where is the compatibility, how compatible it is to the community neighborhood? So I heard the term quite a few times. I would say that encourage Mr. Evans, very experienced planner, along with the applicant, work with the community, work with the local councillor, if any one of us could be helped, to really start a healthy conversation. How to, on one hand, I fully understand as a landowner, there's nothing wrong with trying to maximize their commercial return. I understand that. I think we all understand it. However, it's how the process to get engaged and talk with the neighborhood and within the rules that we have, how we can make the best of this. And I think the staff also mentioned that actually for some of these people who are listening, it's no longer called downtown local center. It's called village local center. Since we changed the adoption of the OPA, I believe 18.3. This portion is located, the land is located in the upper part of the village local center, which is the city is looking at. And how to really transition the buffer. I think that's the key. So I honestly hope that with goodwill, with the participation, active participation, I may say, of the local community and your local council, I'm sure any one of us would be also be happy to help in some way to have a more, how I put it, a mutually acceptable solution for this particular transition kind of area, like a buffer in between Yonge Street and Hall Street and Mill Street. Now, I do want to highlight the fact, though, it was mentioned about going to Ontario Land Tribunal. I hope we would not get to there. But as the speaker before me, a lot of tax dollars will go in to take a position from the city. And the situation is that I kind of highlighted is the province is driving at intensification. And on the other hand, the city and the community would have to really come up with very good justification, not just I don't like it. So that's why I'm saying, moving forward, I hope there's opportunity to work out some, I don't want to say compromise, but workable solutions for all parties. Those are my comments for this file. And thank you all for coming, and particularly those ones that also take the time to talk and share your views with us. I hear you concerns. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is there anybody else? Okay, seeing none, let me just wrap it up. So I'll start off by saying I was not happy to see this for mostly, at least originally, for the sense that the Ward 4 councillor at the time worked very hard with the community to get this first application in place, and that Ward 4 councillor was me. I wasn't really happy to see this go all the way through the process, through the work that our staff has put through, and then through the Ontario Land Tribunal, and then nothing ever happened. And, it bothers me that we're doing a second round of planning process on the same piece of land. However, that being said, it's been referenced here a couple of times. We do have an official plan in that area that's, I think, still relevant. And we did talk about it today, and we're working on finalizing our official plan for that area. And I think, given the sensitivity of this area, and it's a difficult area to allow development and revitalization, but at the same time respecting the fact that it's a very enclosed space between the commercial area on Yonge Street, which we do want to revitalize, and the neighborhoods that are right adjacent to it. So whatever we have in the official plan, I think in this case, maybe more than even normal, I think we really need to be cognizant of what's allowed in the various policies, because I think most of the policies in there are relevant. And I know, for example, one of the things that's outlined in the staff report is the fact that the density is statistically over what's allowed in that area. And I do appreciate Mr. Di Maria's comment that there's still some interpretation as to what exactly is allowed on this land, or at least on parts of this land. So I guess the general comment that I would make is we have an exercise to do with the applicant and the community and us on council to make sure that we find something in this area that will fit. Now, I realize that the policy regime has changed a bit since the 2000 and whatever it was when this was approved the first time, or the other thing was approved the first time, but we still need to make it fit. I want to talk a little bit about what's before us. One of the things that was mentioned in the staff report is affordable housing, and whatever ends up being put on this piece of land. And I mean, it is possible that something similar in some form could be allowed on this land that does provide an opportunity for affordable housing. I expect us to be getting lots of affordable housing. And I say affordable housing, I'm not talking about social housing. I'm talking housing that's more affordable to more people, a more vibrant range of housing that more people in more income ranges can afford. I really wonder about the future access road from Crosby and how that interfaces with this project. Because one of the things that concerns me the most right now is the traffic that this will generate. And having all of this traffic spilling out onto Hall Street, I mean, I'll leave that to our traffic engineers because that's an important part of this step. But my layman look at that says that that could be problematic. And I think it sounds logical to me to vet the possibility of this extension of Crosby coming into play to maybe help to distribute the traffic a little bit better in that particular area. I will say that the Langstaff House, that was an important part to save that heritage asset, and it remains a very important thing to save that heritage asset. In fact, a lot of time was spent in the last application, so hopefully we don't have to repeat all of that. I actually do like the way that the Langstaff House is being handled here as the kind of the front part of this application. So I'm okay with that. You know, in fairness to the applicant, I think the only thing I would say about that is if there's some way that we could animate that house to make it more of a publicly accessible asset, I think that would be good. I don't really know what that looks like, but I think we need to think outside the box on that. So, I mean, I'll just finish off. I just got a few seconds. Lots has been said, and we've got more than enough comments to refer back to staff. But I will say that I just want to reiterate that we need to have some conversations, you know, with the local councillors and with all of us to make this fit. And you know, I get it. This first application is not on the table at the moment, but we have been through this with the residents, and I think a lot of the conversations we've started, and I think we need to start from there to talk about this new application and get something in that area that's going to work with the community, that's going to work to revitalize what we've got in our village core area. So that's it for me. I don't think we have any more people wanting to speak on this issue that I can see. So we have a motion by Councillor Tree, seconded by Councillor Thompson to put all the comments that we've heard here tonight back to staff. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries unanimously. Thank you very much. All right. So the next item on the agenda is the request for comment zoning bylaw amendment application, Greek Market Corner, 60 King Road. And I believe Diane Pye is our planner. Actually, if we've got 107 Hall people wanting to leave, that's okay. And that will free up some seats for those that you know, only got the standing room only tickets. Yeah, standing room only people, you can come. The first serving for breakfast has been served. We have tables available now. That's the best I've got. That's the only material I've got. Only the clerk is laughing. It's funny. Okay. All right. So Diane, I think we're ready to hear your presentation. So go ahead when you're ready.
Good evening, Mayor West, members of council and the public. The third item tonight involves a zoning bylaw amendment application for the lands municipally known as 60 King Road. Staff notes that a related site plan application has been submitted, but is not subject to the statutory public meeting. Next slide, please. The subject lands are located on the north side of King Road, west of Yonge Street, and has a total site area of approximately 1.23 hectares. The subject lands currently support a total of 4 existing buildings. Building A is a 2-story building with an existing restaurant and office on the ground floor and 6 residential units above. Building B is connected to Building A and is used for storage associated with the restaurant use. Building C is currently used as a hair salon and is proposed to be used for future office and retail uses. Building D contains 3 residential dwelling units. The abutting land uses include low-density residential uses to the north, commercial uses to the east, a provincially significant wetland to the west, and King Road to the south, beyond which is the Oak Ridges Soccer Club and recently approved Oak Ridges Air Management Facility. The subject lands are designated neighborhood and natural core in accordance with the city's official plan. The easterly portion of the lands is designated neighborhood, which permits primarily low-density and medium-density residential uses, neighborhood commercial uses, community uses, parks and open spaces, and automotive service commercial uses, subject to specific policy criteria. Next slide, please. The westerly portion of the subject lands is designated natural core. The natural core designation is intended to maintain, improve, and restore the ecological integrity of natural features and functions outside the central corridor of the Oak Ridges Moraine. At this time, no development is proposed on this portion of the subject lands. With respect to zoning, the lands are zoned General Commercial 1, GC1 zone, and Flood, F zone, under Bylaw 434-88, as amended. The easterly portion of the lands are zoned GC1 zone, which permits a wide range of commercial uses, not including the ones being sought through this amendment. The westerly portion of the lands are zoned F zone. Buildings and structures are not permitted within the F zone, except where they're intended for flood and erosion control. Next slide, please. The applicant is seeking to amend the zoning bylaw to recognize and permit the existing commercial, office, and residential uses within the existing buildings on the subject lands. No exterior renovations or site alterations are proposed at this time. The purpose of the report is to provide council and the public with an overview of the applicant's development proposal and has been structured for information purposes only, with a recommendation that all comments be referred back to staff for consideration. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Ms. Pai. And for the applicant, we have Jim Kotsopoulos from JKO Planning Services. Mr. Kotsopoulos, welcome.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council, city staff, and members of the public. Jim Kotsopoulos, 27 Fieldflower Crescent in Richmond Hill. Mr. Mayor, I'm not going to add too much more to what Ms. Pai eloquently stated in terms of the history, but I have provided the clerk with a short PowerPoint presentation, and I just want to concentrate on the historical aspects, Mr. Mayor, just to provide some clarity to what Ms. Pai has already stated. So if we can just go to that presentation that I provided. Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Can you just, sorry. Karen, if you can just go on, I just want to show the site plan. Keep going. So as Ms. Pai said, Mr. Mayor, there are currently 4 buildings on the site, which is obviously the combination of the south building that accommodates the Greek Market Cafe in conjunction with the back of house, which is the storage and HVAC and so forth. The middle portion is the hair salon, and then the north portion is the residential. So if you can keep going, I just want to get to the historical part more. So that's the official plan. If you can just go to the next one. Okay, as Ms. Pai said, the proposal before you obviously has the connotation of the flood zone and the small general commercial 1 zone at the north. Mr. Chair, the important historical part here is up to October of 1988, the city then brought in a city-initiated zoning bylaw 434-88, which had the effect of changing the zoning from the commercial under bylaw 1275, which you see on your left, which would have permitted the uses that you have there today. However, upon the introduction and the incorporation of bylaw 434-88, the zoning was changed to flood with the exception of the northerly portion of GC1, which then obviously created a zoning situation of those existing buildings. I do not know why the then owner did not in any way address this issue, because 43488 does include some exceptions. However, they do not include these lands. So all of a sudden, as of 43488, we had the situation where those existing buildings that have been there basically since the 1970s are all of a sudden forced to have an issue of non-compliance. So if we can get to the next slide. That again just shows you the flood zone. The next one. Okay, keep going. More. So, Mr. Chair, what I've showed you here, and my apologies for the quality of it, but it just shows you. I have some images from 1970, then 1978. You do see the existence of those buildings on those lands. If you can go roll to the next one. So in 1988, Mr. Chair, you continue to see them, and then 1995. So 1988 is when the bylaw was introduced and enacted by City Council that changed the zoning from the commercial to the flood. Next one. So again, Mr. Chair, in 1999, 2002, you see the existence of the buildings on the site. The next one. And Mr. Chair, again, the essence of what you see today has been in existence since the 70s. These are street photos from 2007 to show you again the building in its current form. If you go to the next one. 2009, Mr. Chair, again, it just shows you what the site looked like back then. And next one. 2011. So, Mr. Chair, just want to finalize this by saying that the buildings there have been functional and present at the site since the 1970s. We ran into that issue about the zoning non-compliance in 1988 when the city initiated bylaw was implemented, and the buildings again continue to function, and we're looking for the buildings to be recognized and legalized as they should have been with the original bylaw on these lands. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Thanks very much, Mr. Kratsopoulos. This is a Ward 1. Oh, sorry. Actually, is there anybody here wanting to speak about that issue? No, and we have no registered delegates, Mr. Clerk, right? Okay, Mrs. Davidson, if you would like to start us off.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor, I do want to make a couple of comments just for others. This is already a functional restaurant that people have seemed to take to and go to, although building code and fire code violations were identified at the site. And obviously, before any approvals, we need to make sure that the building permit application and all violations have been satisfactorily addressed. I think there are some parking issues also here. And I will leave it to staff to ensure that everything is to code, that things are safe. There's a patio that has been well used since COVID, and I'm not a planner. It worries me how close cars are to that. So I look to staff to ensure that this application meets all safety, fire, building code standards before being approved. Outside of that, I have to admit it's already a focal point for Ward 1. It's already a gathering place. I met with the applicant and the owner, and we discussed ways that this will, if approved and meeting all expectations of coding, become maybe even a more vibrant part of our community. So as long as staff ensures that the violations are corrected and that all the T's are crossed and the I's are dotted, I appreciate they are keeping the natural environment to the west, and cosmetically there and structurally, there's really no big changes here. So those are the comments I wanted to make. Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much. Seconder, Councillor Chan.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and thank you, staff, as well as the applicant planner who make the presentation. I'd like to second the motion of the local council to send all the comments back to staff for further review. I will concur with the local councillor said it is a go-to place. That particular Yang and King area is very popular. And I have to admit, I went there quite a few times during the months before and after October 24th. In any event, this is a situation unlike other proposed development that's going to be new things, alterations, and so on and so on. In this case, is really trying to recognize what's already there, and not only that, improve the existing structures already there. So if this is something we have to say yes tonight, I would have say yes, provided, like the FICO and the building code and all those violations have been fixed. And in particular, I'm pleased to see that not only that it would expand the area, which is in the meantime, I think as I mentioned, the parking space that is currently in use would actually be removed, so to speak, from the natural feature. And also there's a possibility, subject to, of course, the consent of the landowner, to convey additional spaces for the public in terms of natural heritage. So it's not decreasing, if I read it correctly, it's expanding the natural heritage and without changing anything on the structure. So it's almost like a hardly heard of situation. So I'm happy to second it, and hopefully all those deficiencies currently in those existing structures be ratified. And so it sounds like this could be a win-win kind of scenario for all parties. Thank you, Mr. Chair, for me to comment and second the motion.
Okay, anybody else? Okay, seeing none, we have a motion on the floor to refer all comments back to staff. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. Thank you very much. All right, so we've come to the last item on the agenda tonight. It's a request for comments, zoning bylaw amendment for the Islamic Society of Regional Municipality of York, 1200 and 1380 Stouffville Road. And our staff planner on this is Diane Pye. So Ms. Pye, if you want to come on and get us started.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor West, members of council and the public. The first item tonight involves a zoning bylaw amendment application for the lands municipally known as 1200 and 1380 Stouffville Road. Staff notes that a related draft plan of subdivision and draft plan of condominium applications have also been submitted, but are not subject to the statutory public meeting. Next slide, please. The subject lands are located on the north side of Stouffville Road, west of Leslie Street, and have a total lot area of approximately 13.4 hectares. The lands currently support a number of existing buildings, including a single detached dwelling which is under construction, a place of worship, and a private school. The residence and private school are to remain, while the place of worship building will be demolished to facilitate the proposed development. The western portion of the lands are traversed by a tributary of the Root River. Abutting land uses include Stouffville Road to the south, beyond which are existing single detached dwellings, vacant rural lands, and a place of worship. Leslie Street to the east, beyond which are agricultural lands, open space lands, and an approved low-density residential subdivision to the immediate north, and existing single detached dwellings to the west. Next slide, please. The lands have a split designation under the city's official plan and the West Gormley secondary plan. The westerly portion of the lands are designated Oak Ridges Moraine Natural Linkage, which intends to maintain, improve, and restore the ecological integrity of the Oak Ridges Moraine, as well as to maintain, improve, and restore the regional scale open space linkage between the Oak Ridges Moraine Natural Core and river valleys and stream corridors. The easterly portion of the lands, where the majority of the development is proposed, are designated institutional under the secondary plan. The secondary plan acknowledges the current use for the lands for a place of worship with recreational and cultural facilities. additional uses such as day nurseries, private schools, seniors housing, and other uses considered accessory to the institutional use may be permitted without amendment to the secondary plan, subject to certain requirements. With respect to zoning, the subject lands are zoned urban, UR zone, and Oak Ridges Marine Natural Linkage, or NL zone, under bylaw 128-04 as amended. Neither zone category permits the proposed development. The applicant is seeking council's approval of its zoning bylaw amendment application to permit a high-density mixed-use development on its land holdings. The proposed development is to be comprised of 3 11-story residential buildings, 3 10-story residential buildings, 1 4-story mixed-use buildings to contain residential and commercial uses, and a 2-story institutional building to contain a private school and place of worship, with a total of 960 residential units. Next slide, please. The associated draft plan of subdivision submitted proposes to create 15 development blocks, 1 block for common element condominium, 1 environmental buffer block, 1 block for the existing single detached dwelling, 1 block for the existing private school, 1 block for mid-rise mixed-use development, 6 blocks for high-rise residential development, 1 institutional block, and 1 future development block. The purpose of this report is to provide council and the public with an overview of the applicant's development proposal and has been structured for information purposes only, with a recommendation that all comments be referred back to staff for consideration. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I think we have Eldon Theodore from MHBC Planning who's the agent for the applicant. Welcome, Eldon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the committee. Didn't realize how high this podium is. I'm Eldon Theodore from MHBC. I'm here on behalf of the Islamic Society of the Regional Municipality of York. With me tonight are members of the society, Mr. Zafar Bangesh from the Islamic Society, as well as Abdullah Gulzar from Velour Engineering, Project Team Manager. We also have our legal counsel on call virtually if there are any questions that come up. If we could move to the next slide. Ms. Pai gave a great overview of the proposal itself and the presentation. I just wanted to touch on a couple additional things. While the overall subject lands is shown in the photo here, what's really identified in the green is really the focus of the application, and really the balance of the property being the natural heritage as well as the residents on the west side are really on their own course to be protected or to be left as is. Next slide. So the proposal itself is to achieve a fully integrated, complete institutional community on the site, really focused on retirement and grounded through spiritual belief. The anchor of this community is the institutional use being the mosque serving residents on the site as well as the surrounding community. This facility is multi-purpose. In addition to the school, it also offers a gymnasium, swimming pool, basketball course, and you can see on the plan there's an associated soccer pitch on the east side of the site, really providing recreational active opportunities that go part and parcel with a facility that serves a greater purpose. The balance of the lands provide for, as noted, a mix of mid and high rise buildings focusing on seniors living, supported by surface parking, but the majority of which are being underground parking with 1 level of underground. There is, as mentioned, incidental office as well as commercial uses that support the function of operations so that the site in itself is self-sufficient. Residents would be able to walk between the facilities on the site, receive the majority of their daily needs and spiritual needs on the site, helping to limit the number of trips that occur to and from the property itself. But most importantly, providing much needed seniors housing, which we know in Ontario is in great demand. Next slide. So this is just a quick overview of the proposal and just some general statistics. We're proposing 8 additional buildings on the site for heights from 2 to 11 stories, as mentioned, 960 seniors residential units and 1,055 parking spaces, of which 777 are underground, the majority of those spaces. Next slide. And we also provided in the proposals just some just general breakdown of units and information, just showing the suite mixes, 1-bedroom and 2-bedroom suites that are accommodating that lifestyle as part of the proposal. Next slide. Ms. Pye did a great job in kind of going through the proposal and breaking down the pieces. One of the things I will note is that within Block F, it's not an existing house, it's actually existing heritage building that's being used as a private school, and that we would want to continue that operation and respect that it's integrated as part of the overall development. And we can skip the next couple of slides because really they just articulate the proposal that was shared by Ms. Pye in the presentation, showing the elevations. Next slide. Again, the elevations of the proposed 10 and 11-story buildings. And next slide. Elevation of the 4-story building. And finally, next slide. So what we just wanted to do is acknowledge that we've noted and summarized the issues that we've seen raised as part of the staff report. And we've taken a close look at these, and we recognize that there are a number of things to resolve, and we're happy to work with staff as well as with the community in terms of any public comments that we hear to improve the application before coming back to this committee and council. And happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thanks very much, Mr. Theodore. Okay, the next person on the list is Leo Longo from Aird Burles. He's the legal counsel for this applicant. Mr. Longo, I see you there. If you want to turn your camera on and unmute yourself, you've got 5 minutes. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. I'll just take 5 seconds. I'm here to assist council and staff in answering any questions that might arise once you've heard from the public and council members themselves have spoken. So I'm here to be a resource. I won't take any more of your time right now, but please give me the opportunity to address any questions that might arise. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Longo. So we've got the next person is Ahmed Khawaja, Islamic Society for the Regional Municipality of York. Welcome, Mr. Khawaja.
Thank you. Honorable Mayor and councillors, my name is Ahmed Khawaja. I'm here to speak on behalf of the Islamic Society of the Regional Municipality of York, the applicant regarding the zoning bylaw amendment application. This is an exciting project for our community and would fulfill the needs of not only our community, but also the broader Canadian public. It is our understanding that within a 10-kilometer radius, there is no facilities such as swimming pools in Richmond Hill. In addition to seniors housing, the Society's plans include the building of a swimming pool as well as gymnasiums, and these amenities will not be restricted solely to the members of the Islamic Society. All of our fellow Canadians would be welcome to join us and enjoy the many amenities that are planned. In the past, we have interacted with church groups and members of other faith communities, and going forward, we do not wish to create an exclusive community, restricting the use of our facilities, rather an inclusive and welcoming community here. It is worth noting that while these amenities, whether indoor or outdoor, would be built with our resources, they will be available for others to use as well. The Society's plans include the following: seniors housing, accessory services such as doctors' offices, pharmacies, and other auxiliary services to serve seniors, a place of worship, a private school and daycare, 2 gymnasiums, a swimming pool, and more than 3.7 hectares of open natural green space. We are acutely aware of great shortages of seniors' homes, and as our community grows old, the need for seniors housing is greatly felt. We want to ensure that our seniors can live in a safe and friendly environment. They would be able to interact with other seniors and enjoy the many benefits such as exercise in the gym, going for a swim, and going for a leisurely walk in our green space. At the center of this project is a place of worship as well as a daycare and private school. I can envision the day when my own children and grandchildren would be walking to school in a safe and friendly environment. What greater pleasure can a parent or grandparent have? On behalf of the Islamic Society of the Regional Municipality of York, I request the council to approve this application as soon as possible. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, the next speaker we have is Dr. Salman Anwar. Dr. Anwar, welcome.
Thank you, Mayor David West and members of council. My name is Dr. Salman Anwar. I'm a medical doctor specializing in internal medicine and rheumatology. I'm here to support the application the Islamic Society of Regional Municipality of York has submitted regarding the zoning bylaw amendment. As I look at the proposed plans, it gives me great hope and comfort that a very important need of our community would be fulfilled. The proposed plans not only include seniors housing, a great need at this time, but also other services that would greatly benefit our seniors. As a healthcare professional, I'm acutely aware of the great stress on our healthcare system. Our emergency departments are overwhelmed. Vital medical procedures have to be put on hold because of lack of space and the availability of doctors and nurses. It's in our collective interest to keep our seniors healthy for as long as possible. As a physician, I believe this development will be crucial in the well-being of seniors in our community from an emotional, psychological, and physical perspective. Many seniors feel alienated from society. This development gives them the opportunity to be included in the greater community, gives them a sense of purpose, and will slow and prevent the development of disorders such as cognitive impairment and dementia, ultimately lowering healthcare resource utilization and allows them to contribute positively to our community. The proposed plans by the Islamic Society offer a holistic approach to healthy living by providing houses and facilities for physical activity, such as exercise in the gym and swimming pool. And further, with medical services available on site, these will help reduce the burden in our hospital emergency departments and of our inpatient wards. I believe the Society's plans are very well thought out. The development project is compact. It addresses solutions to many of these pressing problems that we currently face. And I wholeheartedly support the proposed development plan by the Islamic Society. Actually, I hope other nonprofit organizations would consider similar projects to assist in alleviating a great need throughout our city and indeed in our province. I request the council to approve this application as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Anwar. So the next person is Rose Palma. Hi, Ms. Palma, welcome.
Good evening. Good evening, Mayor West and members of council. My name is Rose Palma. I'm a PSW and I've worked in long-term care and retirement home facilities for many years. Most of the residing seniors that I've dealt with are diagnosed with Alzheimer's and dementia and also other ailments. Given the acute shortage of facilities for seniors, I feel that the application submitted by the Islamic Society should be given sympathetic hearing and speedy approval. The seniors population is growing in Richmond Hill, in Ontario, and indeed throughout Canada. Facilities for seniors, especially homes, have not kept pace. It would be a great benefit for the community to be able to have a facility where families can have their loved one continue to practice their faith with dignity while residing in these retirement homes. As I reflect on what the Society's proposed plan is, it gives me immense hope that our seniors will not only live in a safe, loving environment, but their emotional needs will be also taken care of. As our community grows old, so do our children who move out of their parents' homes. I know of many seniors who live quite a lonely existence in their homes. With their children finding work and accommodation elsewhere, our seniors are left alone. Loneliness leads to depression and other ailments. I believe our seniors deserve dignity and respect. The Society's plans will provide both. Seniors would be in the company of other seniors. They'll be able to use the gym for exercise, as well as go for a swim or just walk in a safe, healthy environment. Keeping our seniors happy will also mean keeping them healthy and active for as long as possible. Looking after our seniors is a very worthwhile objective that we all can agree on. None of us is getting any younger. We're all growing old, heading to a time period in our lives when we would need the company of our seniors to feel safe, wanted, and happy. The Islamic Society plans offer a unique opportunity to achieve these worthy objectives. When I reflect on the benefits of such a facility, I can see where I would like to be in 20 years' time. I'll be able to practice my faith, offer my daily prayers, have my dietary requirements of halal food taken care of, and be in the company of people that share my interests. My request to the council is to approve this application so that seniors housing can be built as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Palmer. Okay, the next person is Baolin Zhao. I'm really sorry if I haven't said that right.
You are perfect.
All right.
Thank you. Mayor David West, members of council. My name is Baolin Zhu. I'm the president of Chinese Muslim Association of Canada. Thank you for the opportunity to allow me to speak to the council members this evening regarding the Islamic Society of Regional Municipality of York's application for zoning by law amendment. We fully support this application and request the council to approve it. Our community has found the Islamic Society to be a warm and welcome place. Even with his limited resources at present, it has tried to accommodate the social and cultural needs of the diverse communities. We are very excited about the society's future plans to build senior housing, a private school, and a daycare center, as well as a community center that would include gymnasiums and a swimming pool. The outdoor soccer field will also serve as a baseball diamond. While providing the accommodation for seniors, the society's plans will provide opportunities for youth to be physically active in sporting activities. That are worthwhile activities that deserve everyone's support. On behalf of all my community, I request the City Council to approve this project ASAP so that it can be built expeditiously to fulfill the need of seniors, youth, and young children. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, the last person that we have registered is Farah Ahmed. Welcome, Ms. Ahmed.
Good evening. I'm a little shorter, so I'm gonna.
It's not short, it's compact and fuel efficient. You're actually in vogue.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor West and members of council, and of course, public. Assalamu alaikum. My name is Farah Ahmed. I am here to speak in favor of the proposed zoning bylaw amendments, and I'm also a member of the Islamic Society of Regional Municipality of York. I grew up with the society quite literally. It was founded in '99, and I'm also born in '99. And I've been involved as a volunteer with the society for many years. I'm here to express my support for the society's proposed expansion. I believe that the expansion is necessary to meet the growing needs of our community, especially young people like myself. As a practicing Muslim girl, I find it challenging to access swimming pools that provide an environment where I can not only be in the company of women, but also maintain modest dress code. Our faith requires us to maintain modesty in how we dress and whenever possible, separate activities for men and women, especially swimming. Therefore, the addition of a swimming pool as well as separate gymnasiums for boys and girls is something very exciting to me. The expansion of the mosque will not only benefit the Muslim community, but also the broader community of Richmond Hill. The gymnasiums will provide a safe and inclusive space for youth to engage in physical activities. And the addition of the seniors housing project will also promote intergenerational interaction and learning opportunities to allow us to learn from the wisdom and experiences of our seniors. I urge the council to approve of the zoning bylaw amendment application of the society as soon as possible so we can realize this dream. I believe that the expansion aligns with the values of inclusivity and community engagement that are essential in building a strong and resilient community. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much. Okay, so is there anybody else in the audience that would like to speak? You don't have to be registered if you're, yep, come on up, sir. Just state your name and address for the record, and you've got 5 minutes. You might want to just bring the microphone up. That's good.
Good evening, Mayor West, members of the council, members of the public. My name is Denis Starsky, address 11990 Leslie Street, just south of the proposed development. I'm here today speaking not only on my behalf, but I also represent Leslie Stoffel Landowners Association, LSLA. Our members own approximately 500 acres in the immediate vicinity of the proposed development. And the purpose of my brief speech is to lend a wholehearted support for this proposal. We would love to see the development come through in its proposed form and come through as soon as possible. I'll keep it brief.
Okay, thanks. Okay, anybody else would like to speak? Come on up. Name and address.
Yes,
yep.
Of course. Good evening, everyone. My name is Fariha Rajak, and I'm from 8 Fauna Avenue, Richmond Hill. And I would like to speak on behalf of the community here today and wholeheartedly support the proposal of the Islamic Society of the Region of York. As a young member of the society, I have lived in Richmond Hill for a large portion of my life. I completed elementary and high school here, and I am a university student. And I would like to express that this is very important for the young generation. I know as for myself, it's been quite difficult to foster relationships with the older generations. And that is something that I greatly value, as I believe they have experience that I would never be able to achieve without them passing that knowledge to us. And I understand the importance of this being passed on, not only to members of our community, but to the broader public as well, to facilitate diversity and inclusivity, as we see those as foundational pillars of Richmond Hill, as well as the broader Canadian society. I would also like to express my support for this application, as this would provide many services to the youth and also the seniors, which are quite important, as previous speakers have mentioned. And I would hope that other individuals would also see that this application would propose wide-ranging benefits over many years, and it would be a long-lasting beneficial change for Richmond Hill, which I hope that we will be proud to celebrate in many years to come. And for that reason, I hope that the council will expedite the approval of this application. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, anybody else? Going once, going twice. Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much, everybody. This is nice to see people coming out and supporting this application. So at this point in time, we will be turning it over to council, and Councillor Davidson, you have you can get us kicked off.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you, thank you to the community who clearly support this plan. And it's great to see all of you out here. I would not argue with any of you of the things about the things you want to do there, senior housing and medical facilities and sports facilities. And I wouldn't argue with you on that, but we're here to ensure that any development is in keeping with the zoning and the rules that go with building a great community like Richmond Hill. So I'd like to ask Ms. Pye, the zoning on this area is urban and Oak Ridge's moraine natural linkage. Are any of the actual development buildings encroaching on or part of the Oak Ridge's moraine natural linkage?
We've got Miss Gianetta has.
Oh, I'm
come on
sorry.
the
Go
screen.
ahead. Thank you, Mayor West, through to Councillor Davidson. There appears to be some encroachment, and we've identified that in the staff report. So clarification on whether it's just conceptually an encroachment or in fact an encroachment has been requested to the applicant to clarify.
Thank you. And through you, Mr. Mayor, I believe the federal government has initiated a study of the Rouge Natural Urban Park. Would this area where the Rouge River runs through, is that part of the Rouge National Urban Park study by the federal government? And would it be subject to anything going along with that study? Ms. Janetta?
Through the chair to Councillor Davidson, I am not sure. That is something that staff can report back on.
Thank you. And through you, Mr. Mayor, these height densities are certainly beyond the existing 4 to 5 stories for Ward 1 Oak Ridges, and even are beyond what the projected possible changes to the official plan may be. So I would like us to work together on perhaps getting the height of these buildings down towards what is meant for this area. I'm also concerned about transportation. Even though this Gormley MTSA is considered a transit area, the truth is there's 3 GO trains in the morning and 4 coming home, and there's nothing really in between. That whole area, unfortunately, is a public transit wasteland. And to add over 400 cars, at least I'm sure with the number of units, to Stouffville Road as a 2-lane road, which is already overused and bumper to bumper. I'm concerned about gridlock. I'm concerned about free flow of traffic. I'm also worried that there's no amenities here or for the new development on Leslie. So where are folks going to shop? Where are people going to go to get a haircut? Are we going to be using Stouffville Road, which is already oversubscribed? I know there are plans to widen Stouffville, but I feel like that needs to happen first before we add so many people. I don't know, are people going to shop on Yonge Street and Oak Ridges, in which case Old Colony, North Lake Road and Sandbanks are going to take all the traffic from this neighborhood through Bethesda. I feel like in terms of the bigger picture of how this community is going to work, it might have some real impact on the rest of Ward 1. And I'd like to talk to staff and to the community about how we can work out some of this stuff. Also tree loss, Ms. Gianetta, through you, Mr. Mayor, do we know how much tree loss there would be if this development went forward and what would be done to replace it?
Through the chair to Councillor Davidson, as part of the submission of the application, a tree preservation and plan was submitted, and it's being reviewed by staff currently at the time. Any type of tree removals are reviewed by our parks planning staff, and replacement and compensation for removal of trees is done in accordance with the city's standard policy in that regard.
Thank you. And through you, Mr. Mayor, I'm not sure who wants to answer this one, but is this neighborhood going to be connected to the one north? Or is there going to be free flow? If I live in the new development just north of this proposal, can I walk through this area through to Stouffville Road? Is this going to be an open and accessible neighborhood that's connected to the next neighborhood up north? Ms. Jeanette, I don't know if that's yours or one of the folks here.
Through the chair to Councillor Davidson, the proposal as it's presented today does not provide a connection to the residential community to the north. Further, this is a condominium type development, which would not facilitate public road connections between the two developments. So it's entirely a private community that wouldn't have a public connection that, for example, 2 regular plans of subdivision with public roads would have the benefit of. But if the applicant would like to speak to that further.
Go ahead.
Thank you for the opportunity to respond. So it's my understanding as it sits today that the subdivision to the north doesn't have opportunity to be able to connect. However, if that does exist, and if that's an opportunity, that's something that can be considered and integrated as part of the plan. We're doing a plan of subdivision to create available lots of record, and we're doing a private condominium road at this point is where it sits. Nothing precludes us from being able to establish easements that allow for public access to the site. And that's something we're happy to do to work through staff. Again, we're at the early part of this application process. Happy to have that discussion with you, Counselor, but it is not a closed door.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. I really want us to all live with beside each other and support each other. And that includes, being friends across the fence. And I hope that we can figure out ways for that to happen. I think there's a lot here that's great, a lot that needs to be worked on. And I'm excited that everyone's in support of it. And I look forward to working with the Islamic Society and you're my neighbors too. I live in the neighborhood, and with staff to figure out ways to make this community happen and to thrive into the future. Thank you.
Well said. Thank you. And so you'll move the recommendations to staff. Thank you. Okay, so Regional Local Councillor DiPaolo. You'll second, I presume, right?
Yes, I'll definitely second the motion. And Mr. Mayor, I will say I was very excited to see this application come forward, and I think it fits right into the vision that myself, the late Mayor Barrow had when we fought at the region hard to create a major transit station area around the Gormley GO station. We get a lot of applicants who ask for exceptions from what's planned, and this is an applicant who's understood exactly what is intended for this area. This is the major transit station area contemplated 200 people and jobs per acre, or 160 people and jobs per acre, and it's very limited. There's this piece of land. There's a little bit of the urban to the north, and then the small settlement area in Gormley that can be intensified. And this is where we can achieve 1,000 of the 27. Close to 1,000 of the 27,000 units that we need to accomplish in the next 10 years, as mandated by the province of Ontario. And it appears by all accounts that this applicant's ready to go forward and can achieve it within the 10-year time frame, which is so exciting when there's so many other places in Richmond Hill on hold or dragging their heels. So, yeah. But there's as we move towards the GO station, obviously there may be higher heights contemplated, but I think the heights applied for are reasonable. And Stouffville Road will be expanded. It's already underway. We're going to be out to tender in the fall for the completion of Stouffville Road. It's going to be 2 lanes each way. As the applicant here may know, the lands have been expropriated on the north side of Stouffville Road. It will expand to the north. And then Leslie Street is going to undergo a jog elimination. So the current Leslie on the north part is going to meet Stouffville Road. And where Leslie runs into this property from the south, that portion of Leslie Street will be turned into a local road. But the Leslie itself is going to go completely around this property. So the streets are ready to accommodate the growth that's proposed for this area. There will be lots of places to shop because our heritage district in Gormley will be and they're very exciting mixed use residential, respectful of the history of the Gormley area, but there'll likely be a lot of commercial along Gormley Road with the density pushed out to Stouffville Road and toward the GO train station. So there'll be lots of places to stop. This is an exciting brand new community, and it's a really good use of land planning because we're preserving the Oak Ridge Moraine. All the surrounding area of the Oak Ridge Moraine is not going to be built on. but we're going to have an intensely developed community of Gormley that makes great use of a small portion of land, and then the 1,000 acres surrounding will be protected and forever green according to the Oak Ridge Marine Plan. So I'm excited to see this go forward. The region has done all its work, an enormous amount of work. I just do have one question, Mr. Mayor, through you to Ms. Janetta. How are you treating the fact that the province took this MTSA out of the regional official plan with a desire to create a larger future managed transit station area in the future? How will you treat that with that MTSA being put on hold by the province?
Through the chair to Councillor De Paula, we'll have to take a close look at the implications of the removal of the MTSA as it relates to the city's ongoing official plan review and update, and make sure that any approvals that we do issue or any decisions that we present to council for decisions will be aligned with those policy implications. Right now, I can't say off the top of my head what those implications are, but we will ensure as part of the review of this application that we ensure that any recommendations we bring forward align with those policies.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that. It is a tricky situation because we're waiting right now for the province of Ontario to make an announcement as to what its policy guideline is going to be with regards to this area. But it's clear that they want to go beyond what the Region of York approved, and over the next 4 to 6 months, they've indicated that they're going to have a clear answer. So it'll dovetail nicely with this process, with our official plan. I hope your plan, your application can be considered when we develop our official plan amendment later this fall. Thank you for the time to speak, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, through you, the mayor. Definitely, I'm probably not going to be as eloquent as Councillor Davidson here. She really summed up a lot of points that I had already written down or wanted to express. And it's very evident everybody's coming out here and talking about how there's very specific needs that can be met with this development. And these are growing needs. There's no question about that. And yes, we would all love to see that. And the common theme that I was hearing is that, council, we want you to approve this right away as fast as you can type thing. The difficulty is reading this report. And I don't know how many of you have actually read the actual report, but I'm sure the person representing the application here certainly read it and knows that it's fraught with a number of different concerns that need to be addressed in order to move this forward. And one of the ones that really sticks out to me, and I think you should all be concerned about it, is with fire and emergency services. So you currently have one access in and out of the location, and these are things. So I wouldn't want to belittle any of the concerns that are listed here. I think Councillor Davidson was very clear that really need to work together to try and work through all these various issues in order to make something like this happen. So those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Regional Local Councillor Deputy Mayor Chan.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and thank you for our staff. We actually have more than one planning staff in here online, and also the applicant's planner is here. And thank you so much by the presence. Not everybody who is sitting in the chambers spoke, but I think your presence here tells volume. It's certainly a welcoming project. No doubt about it. And it's good to hear from someone who has the actually hands-on experience as PSW. She serves seniors. And there's no doubt that members of the particular society that have been talking about, and I think I hear from young person, well, maybe I should, a delegate that's going to make long-lasting impact for this particular project in the city of Richmond Hill. I have to say, I've been to the grounds quite a number of times over the years, serving 16 and a half years now in council. So I've been on the site quite a few times. I know that there actually has been improvements in terms of even for the traffic in terms of going in and out. And of course, like Councillor Thompson has spoke before me and the report mentioned, particularly if you're talking about building with the scale of what's being proposed, more ought to be done, no doubt about it. But the welcoming aspect is, as many of you who the delegates have spoke so eloquently, there's certainly for City of Richmond Hill a very diverse and inclusive, and this is a particular institution, a society whereby would build the facility, perhaps not all at the same time. That's the point. The comment I want to bring up is that welcome the project. Do it, perhaps as indicated, working together, your planning staff with our planning, not staff, your agent, with our staff and local councillor and us in the community, everyone here, to look at, is that a possibility of staging it? And I'm saying that for good reason. Number one, I'm sure the applicant, the society, need to raise lots of money. Am I not right? Yes. So you probably could have different phases, while at the same time, to have the project, I know it's very ambitious, I understand it, but maybe in doing stages in a really realistic, manageable portion, and also would give all parties time to look at, would there be any impact on the natural heritage aspect, on the federal, the Roach Park study that might, looking at the Roach watershed and all this. I don't think any one of us here, if like in support of the project, would say, yeah, no, don't bother with any particular concern about the Roach watershed. Correct? So I honestly think that I in support, but I also suggest as a comment to look at whether in fact it could be in a phase stage approach for many good reasons I just mentioned, and so that seniors, youth, children whom I heard could be not just only for the Islamic faith, but also for people who are actually different faiths, different cultures, different background, can truly make it to be at this particular area, Leslie and Stouffville Road, to be truly community facility for all. And I think it doesn't hurt to take longer time to do it because you want to do it right. And those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Tree.
Great, thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you, Mr. Chair, to our audience here. So first one, thank you so much for coming to City Hall and discussing your concerns. Also express your support for your build up your own community here. Just look at, I think I echo majority of the councillors and the scene. We support fully for this community to build up. From my perspective, I want to bring up a few questions here. The first one regarding the safety concerns. Since we are going to build up private schools, also senior house there. If you look at the planning, there's only one entry, single entry from Stouffville, and that's really concerned me. If something goes wrong, ambulance or fire trucks go inside, only one entry. It's difficult, right? Consider the traffic. So I would suggest maybe in your futures, please design another DR set or pass, just in case the main road is not accessible due to traffic or whatever reasons, right? You do have another way you can get out or get in from there. This is my first suggestion here, just for safety perspective. The second one regarding to the densities here, look at the current states of our street. Leslie and also Gormley and also Stouffville. So I don't know the timeline yet, how or when the region can approve your constructions. If we prove, even we prove, the city approve the buildings here. So in I'm assuming 2 or 3 years long term. At that area, you only have 1 or 2 entries. I don't know how your builders, how your constructors are going to park their cars. Might be a challenge to go through over 1 or 2 paths. So consider that as well in your future, how you're going to build up in practice. Put it this way, right? I don't want to see 20, 30 cars parking on the Stouffville from our builder, right? So you need to consider how you're going to pipe up, align with your construction services with our road construction as well. If in the future, in 6 months or 1 year, I don't know the time yet, and Leslie Street or the Stouffville can be expanded for more than 2 lanes, right? This way, maybe you have more chance to get your builders to be in place to build up those things. Instead, parking on the street might cause the traffic concerns, right? This is my 2 points. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Anybody else? Okay, seeing none, I'll just make a few comments. Lots been said, and again, it's getting late, so I won't just belabor the points here. In the staff report, it does say that most of the proposed land uses appear to be permitted, but the secondary plan does not provide direction with respect to the scale and intensity of these uses. So that concerns me. I mean, there are a number of issues that are outlined in the staff report that we're going to have to look at carefully and make sure that they work. But I think the key here is that we work together on this. I think one of the things that was really eloquently described today by a number of the number of the speakers tonight is the fact that this is a very important and needed facility for this community. And I also really did appreciate the offer that it would be doors open for the rest of the community to enjoy some of the amenities. That's very nice and generous, and it's a good way to make cultural connections in a city like ours that really does value diversity. So I think, we've got a bit of a hill to climb here, but I think it sounds to me like the community is ready to embark on that journey. And I think there's no question that the need for this application is there. We need to be able to work together to see it come through to fruition. And I get the sense that you're looking to do it quickly. So, we need to work together as efficiently as we possibly can. So I'd like to thank everybody for coming out tonight and being so patient. I don't know about you, but this is way past my bedtime. And it's been a long evening tonight, but I appreciate you being here. It actually means a lot to have the community come out and express such an interest in an application like this. And I, for one, and I'm sure I speak for everybody on council, really does appreciate it. It's been a long time where we've been looking at blank seats in front of us during the pandemic, and it's really nice to see smiling faces in those seats. So thank you for coming. We have a motion then on the floor to refer all comments back to staff. All in favor? Okay, and opposed? That carries unanimously. So yeah, and this is the fun part of the evening where we get to do a motion to adjourn, and Councillor Chan put up his hand first, so I'll seconder for that. Councillor Tree, all those in favor? Opposed? Look at that, it carries unanimously. Imagine that. Thanks for